Converting a percent to a decimal, you would drop the percent sign and move the decimal 2 places to the left and include zeros as needed. Okay, so for example, 15% turns into 0.15 and 37.5%. So first of all, 37.5, you just want to change that to 37.5 and then move your decimal. All right. And then you can do the opposite and convert from a decimal to a percent. So you just want to add the percent symbol on there and move your decimal point 2 places to the right. So 0.04 turns into 4%. And we've talked about converting fractions to decimals before. So you just, first you divide the numerator by the denominator to get a decimal. And then from there you can convert that decimal into a percent. All right. And to convert a percent into a fraction, so if it's, you could just convert it to a decimal and then convert it to a percent, or basically like 15% is the same as 15 over 100, and then you can just reduce it. All right, and we talked about this before, also converting from a decimal to a fraction. So 0.3 is the same thing as 3/10, so you can just write it as 3 over 10. 0.15 is the same thing as 15 100ths, so you can write it as 15 over 100 and then reduce that. All right, so let's do some problems. Okay, so 25%, and we want to write that as a decimal. So just move the decimal point. So if it's 25, the decimal point would be after the 5, and you would just move it 2 times to the left. So that would equal 0.25. So 140% would turn into 1.4. And then 0.35%. So that would turn into 0.0035. %, would turn into 0.03. All right, and then change the decimal to a percent. So 0.6, move the decimal point 2 times to the right. So 0.6 equals 60%. 0.18 equals 18%. 0.875 equals 87.5%. And 5 equals 500%. Write each percent as a fraction or mixed number in lowest terms. Okay, so first I would change that to a decimal, and then I'll change the decimal to a fraction. Let's see. Yeah. Maybe that's how I'm going to do it. So that would be 0.4375 for the decimal. And then to change that to a fraction, so we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths place. So this is going to equal 4375 over 10,000. Okay, so I can reduce that by 25. We'll go into both of those numbers. So let's see. So 25 and that would be 18. Bring down the 7. 25 would go into that. So 7 times. That would be 175. 12, and then bring down the 5. And 25 would go into 125 5 times. All right, so that gave me 175 on the top. And then 25 would go into 10,000. So it would go into 104 times. And then basically just add the last 2 zeros on there. So that's going to be 400. So 175 over 400 is still reducible, because I can reduce that by 25 again. So 25 would go into 175 7 times, and 25 would go into 400 16 times. So 7 over 16 is the answer. All right, 37.5%. All right, so that's equal to 0.375, which is equal to 375 over 1,000. And then I can divide each of those by 25. Okay, so let's see. 25 into 375. So that would be 15. Because I know for every, like, the way I think about it is like for every 100, there's like 25 goes into 100 4 times, you know, like 4 quarters in a dollar. So I'm kind of thinking like basically I would think of it like how many quarters would it take to make $3.75 is kind of what I was thinking. So for each of the $3, there's 4 quarters, 4 quarters, 4 quarters, that's 12, and then 3 more quarters, that's 15. That's how I think through that in my head to make it a little easier. So then 25 goes into 1,000. So basically that's like $10. Like how many quarters would it take to be $10? So that would be 40, right? Because 4 for each dollar, so 40. All right, so I can still reduce that again by 5 because 5 goes into 15 3 times, and 5 goes into 40 8 times. So there we go. All right. 3/8 then. All right. Let's see, 83 1/3%. So, and our goal is to change it to a fraction or mixed number. So this one, yeah, changing it to a decimal is not really the way to go because it's going to be a continuing decimal. So that's where it comes in handy. So like, let's look back at this. Look back at one of these things up here. I think that would come in handy right here. This method maybe right here. Multiply it times 1/100%. I think that's what we should do. So first I'll change it to an improper fraction. So to change it to an improper fraction, I would have to multiply 3 times 83. It's 249. So it's going to be 249 over 3. So I could call that 249% over 3, and then multiply that times 1/1000 or 1/100%. Okay. So essentially you could say that the percent cancels out. So, and then just multiply across like you do with fractions. So 249 times 1 is 249, and then 3 times 100 is 300. So there's our fraction, and then we would want to see if we could reduce that. Well, let's see. They're not divisible by 2, but I think they are reducible by 3. We can do 5 or 6. Yeah, so let's just try reducing it by 3 and then see what happens. And we can always reduce it some more if we need to. So divide by 3. So on the bottom, we know that's going to be 100. And on top, okay, oh, well, duh. That's going to be 83. We just did that. So it's going to be 83 over 100. And then I don't see of any way to reduce that, because really the only prime factors of 100 are 2 and 5, and 2 and neither 2 nor 5 is going to go into 83. So that's it. All right, so 175%. So basically that's 175 over 100. So 25 goes into 175 7 times, and 25 goes into 100 4 times. And so that's an improper fraction, and they did say they would like it to be in the form of a mixed number. So 4 goes into 7 one time with 3 left over. So 1 3/4. All right, write the fraction as a percent. So 9/10. So I can easily write that as a decimal. That's just going to be 0.9. And then just move the decimal point 2 times to the right, makes it 90%. Okay, and 1 over 50. So change that to a decimal. So, I mean, in this case, an easy way to change that to a decimal would be multiply the top and bottom by 2. That'd be 2 over 100, which I could easily that and just write that as 0.02. And then to change that to a percent, I just move the decimal point 2 times to the right, make it equal to 2%. Okay. And then 1/7. So for that, I needed to change it to a decimal. So I'm just going to use long division on that one. So 7 goes into 100. So 7 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. 10 minus 7 is 3. Bring down the 0. So 7 would go into 30. 4 times 7 is 28. 30 minus 28 is 2. So at this point, I need to do a decimal point there. 7 will go into 22 times. So now I need to look back at my instructions and see, did it tell me to round it off to something? Not really. Let's see. So normally it would tell you what to round it to, like if it was a homework or a test or anything like that. But I'm just going to keep going a little bit longer. Oh, wait. I'm not. Okay. Hang on a second. I don't know why I wrote 100. I should have just done 7 into 1, but it's basically the same thing. I just have my decimal point in the wrong spot. Decimal point should actually be right there. Yeah. Okay. So it should be 0.14. Okay. So maybe I'll just do just one more, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. 7 into 60, that would go 8 times. That would be 56. Whoops. Yeah, it seems to be keep on going forever, so. Okay, so yeah, of course I should know that. All right, so let's just do, we'll call it 0.1429, and we'll do it like that. And then we would change that to 14.29%. Okay. 5/8. All right, so we'll just do 8 goes into 5. So So 8 goes into 50 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. It's 2. All right, and 8 goes into 20 2 times, so that's 16. And then 8 goes into 40 exactly 5 times. So 5/8 is equal to 0.625, which equals 62.5%. Number 17 says, in 1900, only 8% of US homes had a telephone. Write this as a decimal. Okay, well, that's just writing 8% as a decimal, so that would be 0.08. And number 18 says the property tax rate in Alpine County is 0.035. Write this as a percent. So that would be 3.5%. All right. Attendance at this year's company picnic is 3 times last year's attendance. Write this as a percent. Does anyone know what that answer is? 300%. Yep, if it's 3 times what last year was, that means it's 300% of last year. All right. Next, we're going to talk about proportions. So a proportion states that 2 ratios or rates are equal. So $9 is to 12 cans as $18 is to 24 cans. So if you wrote that as a proportion, you would write 9 over 12 equals 18 over 24. Okay, decide whether the proportion is true or false. So the actual easiest way to do this is to just reduce both sides of the fraction, and then it'll just become obvious, either it's equal or not. So 2/3 is already reduced, and then 20 over 27, to reduce that, that would be 10, or wait, no. Actually, you can't even reduce that, can you? No, you can't. All right, so you can't reduce it. So therefore, no, it's not. It's just obvious. If they're both reduced, then either they look exactly the same or they don't. And there's actually an official way that you're supposed to do this by cross multiplying, but there's really, you don't need to do it for that. We'll do cross multiplying in a second when we solve it. Let's see, 2 over 9 is already reduced. 6 over 27, though, you could reduce that more because 3 goes into 6 2 times, and 3 goes into 27 9 times. So therefore, you can see, obviously, yes, that's 2/9 equals 2/9. That's true. Okay, on number 4, we have a decimal. So that's a little bit different. You could just go ahead and do this by cross multiplying, or we could just do, we could like multiply by 10 to get rid of that decimal. So that would make it 34 over 40 equals 7/8. And then we could reduce 34 over 40. We could reduce it by 2 because it would be 17 over 20 equals 7/8. So now 17 over 20, that is fully reduced and it's not 7/8. So that's just a no. All right, so when we solve it, we do want to cross multiply, although reducing an individual fraction can also help with this kind. For example, 15 over 18, I could reduce that because 3 goes into 15 5 times and 3 goes into 18 6 times. So I could reduce that to 5 over 6. And then it kind of becomes kind of obvious what x is equal to, doesn't it? Because x over 6 equals 5 over 6. So like if you multiplied both sides by 6 per se, you know, x, you would see x equals 5. All right. We can also reduce 14 over 18 because 2 goes into 14 7 times and 2 goes into 18 9 times. So I'm going to go ahead and do the actual cross multiplying this time. All right, so x times 7 is 7x. So 7x equals, and then 9 times 49. And I'm just going to write down 9 times 49. And normally I would go ahead and multiply that out, but I know that it's just going to be easier if I go ahead and just divide both sides by 7. Because I know 7 goes into 49 7 times. And then all I have to do is 9 times 7, which is 63. So now I know x equals 63. All right, number 7. So 0.7 times x, so 0.7x equals 9.8 times 3.6. So let's just go ahead and multiply that. So 6 times 8 is 48, carry the 4, that's 54, that's 58, 24, 7, 29. So I got 3528, and then I need 2 decimal points, 2 digits after my decimal point, because I have 1 digit plus 1 digit, that's 2 digits after the decimal point. So it equals 35.28. And then I will divide by 0.7. All right. So whenever you divide by a decimal, what you're supposed to officially do is move the decimal point however many times you need to, so that the number you're dividing by turns into a whole number. And then you move the number, you move the other decimal point the same amount of times. So this would actually be like 7 divided into 352.8. So then 7 goes into 35 5 times. And then 7 can't go into 2, so you put a 0. And then you bring down the 8. And 7 goes into 28 exactly 4 times. So my answer is x equals 50.4. All right, on number 8, The first thing I would probably want to do is change all of those mixed numbers into fractions, improper fractions. All right, so 2 1/3 turns into 7/3, 7/3. And then 1 1/2 turns into 3/2. And then 2 1/4 turns into 9/4. Okay, and now I will cross multiply. So 7/3 times 9/4. I'm going to write that out. Equals 3/2 x. Okay, so 7/3 times 9/4. 3 goes into 9 3 times, so that turns into 21/4 equals 3/2 x. And basically to solve for x, I would multiply both sides by 2/3. Because that will cancel all that out. And then I can reduce a bunch of stuff there. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 3 goes into 21 7 times. So I'm ending up with 7/2 is equal to x. But they probably want that in the form of a mixed number. So that's equal to 3 1/2. All right. Let's see. So we have a fraction and we have some decimals. Probably the easiest thing is to just change that fraction to a decimal. I can multiply 20 times 5 to get 100. So let's multiply that by 5/5. And that would give us 15/100, which we know would be 0.15. So we have so I've got 0.15 over 0.1 equals 0.03 over x. Okay. Let's see. So I guess let's just go ahead and do the cross multiplying. So 0.15x equals, so we gotta do 0.1 times 0.03. So that's just gonna be 0.003. Right. And then I'll divide both sides by 0.15. So if we go ahead and just move both of those decimal places 3 times to the right, we would have 3/150. And we could reduce that by 3s. 3 would go into 150 50 times. So our final answer would be 1/50. All right. Any questions about anything? I should have your test for you on by Monday. So have a good weekend.